Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for another Alfred Hitchcock Presents review. Today I will be talking about Season 3, Episode 9, The Young One, starring Carol Lynley as Janice and Vince Edwards as Tex. This episode's interesting for a few reasons. First of all, the show makes the main character a teenager, which we haven't really seen a lot before. And secondly, this episode is directed by Robert Altman, who would go on to have a very successful film career with many classics. Unfortunately, I don't feel like this episode is very good. Carol Lynley gives it her all and gives a solid performance in the lead. Unfortunately, I feel like her character is overwritten with some strange character motivations that aren't really totally explained. You kind of just got to suspend your disbelief and go with it. And also, not a lot really happens in this episode until the last couple of minutes. So we start with a teen girl, Janice, and her boyfriend, Stan, and they're chatting, and this girl's not happy about anything. She seems to be kind of a troublemaker, honestly, and she's complaining. She's too young. Nobody will let her do anything. She doesn't like living with her aunt, who she says is terrible. But you can tell that Stan isn't totally buying into all this and doesn't totally understand her behavior. At this point, she gets up and starts dancing, which is really strange. There's a lot of odd dancing in this show, and I thought this was no exception. But it does attract the attention of this older guy named Tex. They seem to hit it off well. So Janice at this point is begging this guy to take her somewhere, anywhere. She really wants to get out of this town and where she lives for some reason. And you can tell Tex is interested, but he's basically like, I don't think so, knowing that this will probably lead to trouble, especially considering Janice's age. So at this point, Stan takes Janice home, and we kind of get more of the same. This episode's very repetitive, in my opinion. Once again, she just pleads with him to take her away, but Stan says he can't do it. I didn't think Stan was too interesting of a character either, but he's essential to the plot. At this point, Janice talks to her aunt. We get to meet the aunt. She lies about where she was, but her aunt really knows anyway. Her aunt is not really happy with her behavior. They argue about this. We do learn a little of Janice's backstory. It turns out at one point when she was a younger child, it seems like she lived in a more extravagant type household environment. But her parents, I think, were workers there. They weren't really the people in charge. But it seems like Janice just can't get over this and would rather live this kind of lifestyle again. So at this point, there's another confrontation between Janice and her aunt, and Janice yells at her basically and leaves the house. So at this point, she goes back to the bar, cafe, restaurant. I'm not really sure exactly what it is, where Tex is. He's conveniently still there. There's also a sheriff there who's important to the plot, and he basically tells Janice to go home. He tells her she's a little young to still be out, and he warns Tex about Janice, saying she's a little young for you to be getting involved with, as he can obviously kind of sense the interest there. So at this point, Tex decides that he is going to take Janice home. Not being the smartest Alfred Hitchcock Presents character, I have to say, and she gets really, really flirty. Here's where I thought her character really started to get overdone. It just wasn't that interesting, and I felt the script tried a little bit too hard to show the way she was. At this point, Tex decides to come in reluctantly, which can't be good. They talk about the same things we've heard in the episode over and over again. She wants to leave, basically. At this point, I was getting a little bored by this, to be honest. The scene does feel a little awkward, so I guess if that's what they were going for, this kind of works. So they're talking for quite a while. Eventually, Janice hears a car come by. She screams and kind of like throws milk on Tex's face. It's pretty strange. So at this point, the officer comes in the house, hearing the scream as Janice runs out. And we see that her aunt is a goner, and Tex is standing right next to her. She's like on the steps, dead. Which was really strange. I didn't think this scene was done all that well. I guess it's supposed to make you think that there's really a chance that Tex killed the aunt, but I was never buying that for 1 minute. So basically, Janice lies, and Tex is going to get blamed for all this. But in the normal twist, Stan comes by, the boyfriend from the beginning of the episode. He said he changed his mind. He really was going to take Janice away, but she wasn't there. She had already gone to find Tex. The problem is that Stan saw the aunt's body there, where Janice left it, meaning that Janice had to be the killer. So things do not really end well for Janice. Like I said, it's interesting, the portrayal of a teenager in this role, but maybe because of the time the episode was made, They didn't really want to go any further with it than they do, but the episode just feels kind of dated. Like I said, I thought it was repetitive and the character is overplayed, of Janice. But the acting is solid, and I do appreciate that the episode tried to do something different. It's a watchable episode. I just wish it would have been a little bit more involving, and it wouldn't have been so repetitive, in my opinion. So 2 out of 5 for the young one, and this is definitely not an essential episode in my opinion, but it's watchable if you want to check it out. So 2 out of 5 for the young one, and as always, thank you very much for watching.